Hello, my name is Nathan, and this is Endurance, your weekly spiritual workout. So get ready for some tough spiritual exercise. Our title today is It Is What It Is. What do we do when we can't accept our situation, when circumstances are not what we want? How do we deal with that? We just can't change our circumstances. Well, Stephen will be along in a moment to explain this, and he's referring mainly to a portion of 2 Corinthians 12, where Paul talks about a thorn in his side. That should be interesting. Recently, Barry Bunch has had a new website launched called barrybunch.org. You can go there and take a look at all the Endurance episodes and all our regular broadcasts. So, sit back and enjoy.
What does it benefit anyone if you have sound theology but don't show the love that Christ showed you? Hashtag speak truth.
Family prayer time. So what is it, Peter?
Well, it's where me and Mum, or Joe, we find a subject for a prayer, so maybe the psalm or a country, and then we pray as we feel led, and Bob's your uncle.
It's excellent. Yeah, absolutely. It's family prayer time. Me and Pete pray together, and we'd like you to pray as a family. So join us for family prayer time.
So here we are back for another Endurance Go Deeper, where we go deeper into the topic for endurance. And as Nathan said, it is what it is. And the first thing I think I want to bring up on that is something that we've talked about before, which is accepting where you're at. You can't make a change in your life until you accept where you're at. So for instance, I was recently a bit discontent and I kept denying the fact that I was discontent. And as a result, I couldn't really get rid of the discontentedness. The only way to do that was to accept, first of all, that I was discontent, even though I didn't really have a reason to be. And then once I accepted that, I can make a change. And the same goes for any and all areas of life, including fitness, which is what we talk about here on endurance. The other aspect which Nathan picked up on was the accepting that some things don't change, accepting the things in life that no matter what we do, no matter how much we pray, they just do not change. And Paul in the Bible had some experience with this. He said this in 2 Corinthians 12, verses 7 through to 10. I'm reading this from the CSB. Therefore, so that I would not exalt myself, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to torment me, so that I could not exalt myself. Concerning this, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it would leave me. But he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Therefore, I will most gladly boast all the more about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may reside in me. So I take pleasure in weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and in difficulties, for the sake of Christ, for when I am weak, then I am strong. And the bit that I really want to stick to is, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness, which is God's words to Paul after something in his life wouldn't change. So if you've got something in your life that just doesn't seem to change, could be where you're at in finances, could be where you're at, perhaps there's an ailment or health problem that you can't seem to get rid of, no matter how much you pray, God's grace is sufficient, whatever it is that could be constantly there that you can't seem to get rid of. And lastly, accepting the past, accepting what is in the past. There will be things that we will have regretted, things that we've done or said that we wish we could take back, but we can't. It is what it is. We can't take back what it is we've done or said. But ultimately, Jesus paid the price for that, so it is in the past. And we just need to accept that it is what it is and move on. I've recently been reading Ecclesiastes, which is an excellent book full of loads of wisdom. And it ends with a conclusion, this. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. Now, I could probably end every single endurance with that. But accepting the past, you move on. How do you move on? We have faith in God. You trust him in terms of the grace is sufficient if there's something in your life that isn't changing. Moving on from the past, just leaving it there. And at the end of the day, just fear God and obey his commands. That is, it is what it is.
2 minutes a day can change your world. And in Just a Thought, that's kind of what I do. Because I take the ordinary moments of life and think, how can this apply to faith, to life, to moving through this world with people around us? How can a tiny spider or the handle of a microwavable rice pot affect our life? And how can it help us learn something about ourselves and the world around us? So here's what I thought. Have you ever wondered what red flags, shredded tyres, persistence, holes, dishwater tea, rice maker handles, tape measures, giant spiders that are not, and stripy fabric all have in common? Well, you're not alone, and they actually link wonderfully together, as you will find out in the book. I'm just going to read this out from Reverend Johnny Douglas, who wrote the foreword very kindly for me. Just a Thought is a collection of pregnant brain thoughts, but it's so much more than this. Andy reflects a determination, character and grasp of God and his loving purpose and wise ways. As we go through life, there's all these things that go on. There's all these exciting things of life. But actually, it's the ordinary and it's the normal from which we can learn so much. Each little chapter will take you a few moments to read, but hopefully will get your brain working and ready for the day. Just a Thought.
Splendid talk, Stephen. Quite interesting how you also gave something of your own experience just recently.
Yes, thank you. It's good to learn from other people's mistakes if you can. It's easier than making them yourself.
Absolutely. And of course, I usually do that because I struggle to learn from my own mistakes because there are so few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crew doesn't sound very convinced either.
No. Anyway. I don't think anyone's convinced of that.
All right, so moving on. I was thinking, you made an interesting point. We can't change the past, can we? If we've made a mistake or a situation has taken place, we can't undo it, can we?
No.
No, and as you say, if you can't even accept that there's a problem, you can't deal with it, can you?
No. So like you just stated that you haven't made any mistakes, right? And that you can't unsay what you just said. And so now the whole world thinks you don't make any mistakes. And you've got to live with that because people will have a higher expectation of you. Yeah, exactly. So you can't change the past.
Yes. Yes, I suppose a good way of putting that is acceptance is the first step to change, isn't it?
Yeah. Though the expression, it is what it is usually used to state that something is what it is and it's not going to change. But I used it that way anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously for Paul, God obviously made it clear that in that particular case, he wasn't going to change the situation because he wanted Paul to learn that God's grace was sufficient.
Yeah, we don't actually know what that thorn in his side was. There's a lot of speculation. It could be...
could be an ailment, could be a relationship.
Yeah, and maybe it did get removed at some point. We don't know.
No.
We get the impression that he had it forever, but we don't actually know if it got taken away later in his life, perhaps.
But whatever this was, he was able to run the race to completion.
Though I find it interesting that he prayed 3 times and then that was enough. Like he must have had great faith. If he prayed for something 3 times, it didn't happen, and that was that.
Well, there's some interesting synergy there because Jesus prayed 3 times that God would take the cup from him.
3 is a very important number in the Bible.
Extremely important.
Like 9 is an important number in the Lord of the Rings.
Yes, it is. All right, so I have one more question though. I know it is what it is, but what is it? What is it? If it is what it is, then what is it?
It is X. Let X equal it.
Okay. So 5 minus X would be 5 minus it. Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense now. I hope you understand that. So jolly good. So in conclusion, then, we need to accept what is, because it is what it is. And we have some really encouraging words from 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. And that's great encouragement. And we know that even when we don't feel that we have the strength to keep going, God's power is sufficient, God's grace is sufficient.